So there are obviously a lot of different fourth stimulus check proposals that are being put onto the table right now. But hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another update. So the big idea really is that because there are so many different proposals that are now currently being put on the table, which is really great news because at least we're now starting to see talks resurface. There are now people really pressing for it, and so that is really great news. But because of that reason, it also means that there might also be a lot of confusion that's been going on right now about which proposal is which proposal. Because apparently it seems like we have a $100 proposal, another $100 monthly, then a $300, then an $800, a $500, and then a traditional $1,400 stimulus check. The question really becomes which is which. So in today's update, what I really want to do is maybe to just kind of clarify once again, to simplify all of the different proposals that are currently being put on the table. There are specifically five, there's many, but there's going to be five major ones that we're really going to cover in today's update. I'll probably put timestamps so you guys can kind of jump around to each one, but the idea really is to hopefully just really get a very big picture about what actually is physically available right now or what's physically happening, and then the background story to each one. We did already make a lot of videos talking about each of these proposals, but in just very specific ways. So if you are interested, maybe, you know, as you watch the end of this video, maybe there's a proposal that you particularly find interesting and you want to learn about it. I'll definitely also put videos at the very end screen so you can get into the very in-depth. But today's video is just going to be really clarifying and explaining the surfaced answer to all of the different, specifically the five proposals that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to get started, but as always, real fast before we begin, same exact drill. Consider smashing the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this. Of course, it is always greatly appreciated, so huge thanks if you guys do. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos like this, especially as we get more information to what actually happens to each of these proposals going forward. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about, honestly, just really anything. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So the first of the five different proposals that we're really going to talk about is going to be about a proposal that we actually recently just talked about, but I figured to just put it out there, you know, to really get a big picture, is the one that's pretty much called the Putting Gas Money Back in Your Pocket Act. It has a very long name, but the fast answer to what this proposal is that it's pretty much a brand new bill that was proposed by Josh Harder, who is a U.S. representative from the state of California. The significance background story to this is because he's essentially a person that is up for re-elections, so there's a lot of questionable opinions about whether or about what his specific intentions are in doing this. But regardless of his specific intentions, what this bill is about is pretty much trying to do a program to send out direct checks of $500 to almost every single American that's age 16 or older, inspired by the fact that 16 happens to be the legal driving age around this country. You don't necessarily have to be a driver. Of course, we already talked all about the details about who actually specifically qualifies for it, all of the much more in-depth, if you just want to hear like the story to how this actually became to be. I'll put a video at the very end screen, so definitely check that out. I believe the name of that video is literally just called something like New Money Act Explained or $500 fourth checks, because it is a $500 fourth checks. So that's really the first proposal. Now, the second proposal that we're really going to talk about is one that actually came out a little bit before that, and it's currently right here being called the Gas Rebate Act of 2022. So what this is that essentially is that this is probably the really famous proposal that you might have heard from many videos, but of course hopefully this one summarizes it so you know you get something special about it. But essentially it was introduced by Mike Thompson, John Larson, and Lauren Underwood to provide $100 stimulus checks per month, including dependents, for the rest of this year, as long as the average price of gases remains at $4 or more. There is an income requirement for this one. It's $75,000 for singles, $150,000 for couples. But the big idea to this stimulus is really because it's probably the biggest proposals of all of them. And that's why all of these, even though there's a lot of different proposals, every proposal has a unique aspect to it in some ways. So this one, the Gas Rebate Act of 2022, what's really special is that it's one of them that actually first off has a trigger system, and it also is doing checks on a very, very monthly basis. So that's what's really, really special. Now, the next act that we're really going to talk about is going to be called the Gas Prices Relief Act of 2022. So this one was introduced by Mark Kelly. It is a little bit less talked about, but this one is a little bit more interesting because it's really focused on trying to remove taxes on gas. So kind of in an indirect way doing stimulus checks, but just in a very creative way. In other words, instead of trying to send out direct checks, what they're going to do is that they're trying to essentially reduce the cost of things that we pay for. So in this situation, removing taxes. And so by doing this, in an indirect way, it's not necessarily putting money in your pockets, but it's basically taking less money from your pockets so that the net balance is still the same. So essentially, it's like some proposals, will give you $500. Other proposals will save you $500 so you get to keep it. So it's kind of similar, but just a little bit of a different creative way to do almost the same exact thing. Now, the next proposal that we're going to talk about is going to be called the Big Oil Windfall Profits Act. This one is probably another very, very popular proposal. I do believe is that I did make a video about this, which is, I believe it's literally just called the $360 checks. Definitely check that out. I think the name of the video is literally just called Official Released $360 Checks. It's going to be at the very, very end screen at the end on the lower part of the video. So you definitely can check it out if you want the very specific details. But the long story short is that it was introduced by U.S. Representative Ro Khanna and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. They're trying to essentially tax large oil companies of 300,000 barrels or more, and then they're going to use this tax money to fund stimulus checks. So it's a little bit of a combination of a little bit of all of these in the sense that they're going to both help control taxes, but also provide actual relief to people. I believe the total amount for this one is going to be $240 for singles or $360 for couples per year. So basically, if you're a married individual or a married couple, your household would get $360 worth of stimulus checks, which I think, obviously, we would love to have more, but hopefully it's at least something to be able to enjoy. Now, and probably the final last proposal that we're going to be talking about, and this one's probably a lot less popular, admittedly also because it's a little bit more of a vague proposal, but it's pretty much called the Stop Gas Price Gorging Tax Rebate Act. Hopefully we got that right. So it is very similar to the Big Oil Windfall Profits Tax Act, but the biggest difference is that instead of trying to tax these large major oil companies, what it's going to do is that it's going to create a tax that is basically going to be a lump sum where they basically will tax them all in one wave. So essentially in the previous proposal that we talked about, what's going to happen is that they're going to be taxing oil companies, but on a very, very reoccurring basis, likely monthly. So essentially like a monthly tax that's going to go to them. In this proposal that we're talking about now, it is going to also be a program meant to tax big companies, but instead of doing it in waves, it's going to be doing it in just a massive lump sum where they're just going to tax it all at once. So this is basically of the different proposals, it's the one that's going to be taking the most amount of money from these companies because they're taking it all in basically one wave, but it also means that they're able to immediately have the money they need if they want to use it in order to do for stimulus check programs for us. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. So the big idea really is that one thing about this proposal though is that because it's been a little bit of a very subtle, not a lot of people have been talking about this proposal, the actual dollar amount is going to be dependent a lot on how much they actually collect. So it's definitely of the proposals, the one that is probably the most vague, the most to be determined, and the one that's most, a little bit of a question mark to what's actually going to be happening. But I figured at the end of the day, it is a proposal, it does involve stimulus checks, and it's on the table. So it's important to share like all of the other proposals that we just talked about. But with that being said, hopefully you guys found something relatively insightful in this video, because that's pretty much what I really wanted to cover. Hopefully it really now explains and clarifies all of the different proposals. We covered 5. There's definitely many of them, but this is just the 5 major ones that many channels, including, you know, mine of course, have really been talking about. For more specifics, definitely check out the other videos at the very end screen. They're all going to be on the lower part. The upper videos are going to be focused a lot more about just unemployment stories and just like personal development. The lower part of the end screen is going to be videos about these proposals. So with that being said, if you guys made it to the end, maybe comment something down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well. Feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about anything, and to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.